Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitter. As always, I'm Bryson Carver. It is great to be back after a week off. Listen, sometimes, man, you need some time off. Chilling at the beach. You got some good reading. I'm reading a great book right now. And listen, a lot happened in sports in the last week. Some stuff I want to have time to talk about today. My guy, Steph Curry, host of the ESPYs. I won't be doing a topic about that. I just want to give Steph a shout out. Great job, Steph. But we do have a lot to talk about, though. James Harden taking a big pay cut to stay with Philadelphia officially. I'm going to discuss that as well. And in terms of, I think we're sort of seeing possibly a new James Harden, maybe not in the sense that you guys might think I'll be going with that. Obviously, as well, Kyler Murray last week, the big story in the NFL, got the bag. And shout out to Kyler Murray getting his money. Shout out to every athlete, trying to get paid. I'll discuss that, what it means for the Cardinals, what it means for Kyler, what it means for Lamar Jackson, as well as Big Ben Roethlisberger, newly retired, and he's already making some get off my lawn style comments, if you will. It's not a great look for him. I'm going to discuss that as well as the hypocrisy of his comments. And also at Dak Prescott, people are losing their collective minds on social media. Then again, 75% of social media aren't even real people. But point being, everybody's going crazy. How could Dak Prescott be the 6th highest rated quarterback on Madden 23? I'll explain later in the show because his real life stats, his real life numbers actually back up being ranked that high in terms of not just yards and all that. No. Other second, third level stats to back it up. But first, right back to the Kevin Durant saga. Right off vacation, right back to KD. We know for about a month now, as a matter of fact, 5 days from now, I believe will be the 1 month mark since KD officially asked out of Brooklyn. And we got a new update from Adrian Wojnarowski. It was late last night. Checked my phone this morning. I saw Woj had broken something at 2:30 in the morning Eastern. I'm like, whoa, is it, something big happened? And according to Woj, he said in an article, as Brooklyn Nets star Kevin Durant's trade request approaches for a 4th week, the Boston Celtics have emerged among teams engaged in talks on a possible deal. The Celtics appear no closer to acquiring Durant than others in discussions with the Nets, but Boston's ability to include all-star forward Jaylen Brown as a centerpiece in offers does help make the team formidable in its pursuit. So, and it's funny, I kind of feel somewhat vindicated because I said the day after KD asked out, and I dismissed the Celtics as a possible trade option in terms of fit and whatnot. Then I slept on it. You can go back and look. I kind of slept on it. I was like, you know what? This might actually work. Boston has the package, and I'll go and put up for you right now once again. I put it up in the past, but Boston gets Kevin Durant, and the Brooklyn Nets get Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Al Horford, and 2 first-round picks. Now, reportedly, according to Woj and to Shams Charania, the 2 best insiders in the game, Brooklyn wants Jaylen Brown. Obviously, you're going to have to include Brown or Tatum, and Boston's not going to give up Jason Tatum. He, for as subpar as he played in the finals, the man was just first-team All-NBA. You'll have to include Jaylen Brown. Apparently, Derek White was included in the deal with 3 first-round picks. Brooklyn also wants Boston to give up Marcus Smart and an additional first-round picks. And possibly could swap between them and the Nets. So essentially, an all-star Jaylen Brown, the defensive player of the year Marcus Smart, a really good bench player in Derek White, had a subpar finals, but in my opinion, Boston would not have gotten to the finals if not for the efforts of Derek White, especially in the Eastern Conference Finals and 4th first-round picks. Now, if Brooklyn is going to trade Kevin Durant, this trade makes perfect sense because now you add Jaylen Brown to a team that's already got Ben Simmons, and you've got obviously a good group of guys. You've got 2 shooters in Seth Curry and in Joe Harris. You just added Royce O'Neal. It's a nice basketball team. Yeah, Marcus Smart now, defensive player of the year. Derek White coming off the bench. I still have major questions about Steve Nash as a head coach. And by the way, looks like Kyrie Irving isn't going anywhere. A report came out today that regardless if KD stays or if KD leaves, Kyrie's probably going to be a net next season. So that's a playoff team in the Eastern Conference. I think that it's safe to say that is a playoff team, probably a play-in team, but they'll probably get in the playoffs, depending on how many games that, the 2-3 best players miss. Now, also the dynamic between Jaylen Brown and Kyrie Irving, considering how that went in Boston, we'll see. For Boston, though, would I make the deal? Would I trade Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Derek White, and the first-round picks? Well, first of all, in terms of the picks, As Les Snead has said, well, he hasn't said this with the Rams, but it's kind of become the saying around Les Snead, F them picks. Boston doesn't really need picks. They are in championship mode right now. Obviously, Jason Tatum is still young. He's, 24, 25 years of age? He's not even in his prime yet. And up until the finals, he had a really, really good postseason run. He's just going to keep getting better. Okay, Ime Udoka, what a job he did in his first year as a head coach. You add Malcolm Brogdon. You add Danilo Gallinari. Okay, you've already got Al Horford there for veteran leadership, and he had a good postseason run, a good regular season as well. Robert Williams is a top 3 shot blocker in basketball, was great, playing 75% on a hurt leg. Reportedly was having to get his knee drained. He was so beat up. You had a Grant Williams, my guy from Tennessee, coming off the bench. I thought he played well last season, improved his three-point shooting tremendously. That's still a championship team if you're the Boston Celtics, if you make this trade. So first of all, in terms of the picks, that doesn't really matter right now. By the way, buyout market is always available. I mean, think about how many teams have taken advantage of the buyout market and gotten guys that have helped them win. Boston could take advantage of that because, look, that's an attractive destination now at this point. Next season, if they continue off the momentum of this past season, getting to the NBA Finals, you could add a player in the buyout market, a good veteran player who can help you possibly get back to the NBA Finals once again. But you're talking about a starting lineup, okay, of Malcolm Brogdon, Jason Tatum, Kevin Durant, Al Horford, Robert Williams. Size, defense, scoring, shooting. Isn't that what wins in the NBA these days? All right, Malcolm Brogdon, excellent shooter. Jason Tatum, good three-point shooter. Kevin Durant, excellent three-point shooter. Same can be said about Al Horford, not to the level of KD, but Al Horford we know can knock down the three. Robert Williams can't, but he's great in the pick and roll. And again, we know the impact he brings to the defensive end of the floor. Remember, KD was top 5 in the league in blocks his second year in Golden State. And you have depth come off the bench. You have guys like Gallinari, like Grant Williams, like Peyton Pritchard. To me, this makes sense for both sides. Now, again, I want to reiterate what Woj said. The Celtics appear no closer to acquiring Durant than others in discussions with the Nets. Okay, so basically Boston's on equal footing with everybody else. Now, Woj would go on to say in this article, the Miami Heat, the Phoenix Suns, and the Toronto Raptors have been well known to have varying degrees of interest in Kevin Durant. Here's the thing. Phoenix is out. Okay, now that they made this deal with DeAndre Ayton because of sort of this weird clause or this weird rule in the CBA, they cannot trade DeAndre Ayton until next year because he was a restricted free agent and he was just signed. Okay, so that's off the table. Phoenix, I genuinely cannot see a path for the Phoenix Suns acquiring Kevin Durant. I can't, unless they just gut their entire team, which they're not going to do. Miami, I don't know. You probably have to, get involved in a 3-team trade, but isn't the point of getting Jimmy Butler, KD, and Bam Adebayo teamed up? So outside of that, what do you got? Tyler Hero, Victor Oladipo, you trade Duncan Robinson, Gabe Vincent. I mean, it's a good bench, but it's not enough to get Kevin Durant. So in terms of how this works for both sides, I think it does. It gives Brooklyn assets, which they are devoid of right now, and gives them draft picks, gives them the opportunity to build in the future. Kyrie Irving is probably going to leave next summer and go to Los Angeles. That's, in all likelihood, I think that will be the case. Okay? Jaylen Brown, does he stay? Does he go? I think his contract, he's still got another 2-3 years in his deal, so he'll be in Brooklyn. So Brooklyn will be at least viable. I think the biggest problem now with the Nets at this point, if they make this trade, is now you got to get a new head coach because Steve Nash, love him, was a great player, Hall of Famer, 2-time MVP. But I'm not sure if he even runs any set plays for KD and Kyrie. Is that because Steve Nash doesn't know how? Doubt it. Maybe that has something to do with his 2 superstar players, but that's just how it is. Should have never let go of Kenny Atkinson, but that's neither here nor there. But I'll reiterate, I said a month ago, I think this works. This makes sense for both sides. Brooklyn stays viable. Boston gets better. Did they give up depth? Yeah. But you're adding Kevin Durant. And here's the thing, too. Again, KD does not have to be the emotional leader of the Boston Celtics. This is why I said it's no coincidence that it was the Miami Heat and the Phoenix Suns that were on, or at least I should say at the top of his wish list. It's no success that he had his greatest success in Golden State. No secret. Got the two leaders, Steph Curry, Draymond Green. They're the heartbeat of the Warriors. A set Hall of Fame level head coach, Steve Kerr. Same thing in Miami. Hall of Fame head coach, in my view, Eric Spoelstra. And who's the heartbeat of the Miami Heat? Jimmy Butler, and to a larger degree, Udonis Haslem. Phoenix, who's the heartbeat of that team? Chris Paul. Great coach, Monty Williams. Congrats to Monty. He just got extended. So KD doesn't have to be, as Charles Barkley called it, the bus driver. Doesn't have to be. Can he be the best player? Absolutely. KD goes to Boston. KD goes to every team not named the Bucks, Lakers, Mavs, and Warriors. Outside of like those, he's the best player on the team, on any team in the NBA, outside the four I mentioned. That's how great of a basketball player this guy is. He's one of the 20 greatest players of all time. But is he a bus driver? Is he the guy that is going to be the driving force, the heart and soul? Never forget, Kawhi Leonard was the best player in a championship team in Toronto. The heartbeat of the Raptors was Kyle Lowry. Okay, Kawhi didn't lead them. He's the best player. He did not lead them to the title. He's the missing piece, no question. But it's a different ballgame when we talk about guys who, I'm not even saying like guys who can just drag teams. Like LeBron did that for, years in Cleveland. But just guys who the whole team, the whole franchise looks to you, hey, X, hey, Steph, hey, Giannis, hey, LeBron, take us there. Well, all three of them have shown that they can do that. KD, not really. My view, he was the best player on that first Warriors title, at least the first title with Kevin Durant in 2017. KD was the best player on the team. My opinion, Steph had re-solidified himself as the best player in 2018. But I've seen KD can be the best player on a title team. Kawhi Leonard could be the best player on a title team. Leading them there, whole different story. But I think this works for both sides. I really do. He gets to go to a team that's gotten, it's crazy to say established. Ime Udoka was only there for a year, but he's widely respected around the NBA. We know the impact he had, on the defensive end for the Celtics. The thing with Boston now is late game execution. Well, KD's one of the better closers we have in the NBA. KD is probably the best player in the NBA when it comes to 10 seconds left, give him the ball, let him go win the game. Like he's probably Damian Lillard, like those are like the top two. Steph, that's what they do. They are clutch time scorers. So I think it works for both sides. I really do. But again, like Woj said, not even close to a done deal. Does something get done in the next week? Who knows? By the way, it was funny. I read that I forgot where it was, but I read that the Nets actually did reach out to my Golden State Warriors to try and make a deal. Now, I said on the show, I would love Kevin Durant to come back to Golden State. Who wouldn't? But I said, I'm not going to give up half the roster to get him. I'm not going to give up every single asset to get him. Well, that's essentially what Boston asked for. They asked for Andrew Wiggins, Jordan Poole, James Wiseman, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, and 4 first-round picks. No. Nah, we're not doing that. Okay? So that's no bueno. But I will say this, if KD gets traded to Boston and it's a similar deal to what I proposed, or it's a similar deal to what Woj has suggested, that it's a collision course. It is a 2-team race. It is the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks. One of those 2 teams will be in the NBA Finals. Guarantee it. Guarantee it. So it's going to be one of those 2, and they'll meet the Warriors in the 2023 NBA Finals. Moving on now to the National Football League. By the way, training camp is literally upon us. Some teams have already begun their training camp. Others are, or I think majority of the league is going to start like within the next 2 days or so. We're so close to football, folks. We're close. I love football. Love the NFL. All right, though. So Kyler Murray was one of the bigger stories of the offseason in terms of the fact that 3 years in the NFL, he's due for a contract extension. Hadn't got one yet. Well, that changed last week. He signed a 5-year, $230 million extension, $160 million of that money guaranteed. Now, that now makes Kyler Murray, in terms of average annual salary, the second highest paid quarterback in the NFL to Aaron Rodgers. It puts him a tick above Mahomes and Josh Allen, puts him above Deshaun Watson. Dak's there at $40 million. Somebody's in between Dak and Mahomes. I forgot who it was. Was it Russell Wilson? I don't think it was Russ. It was somebody else. Point is, Kyler Murray got paid. Now, frequent listeners or viewers of the show, we appreciate you guys, by the way, but frequent viewers and listeners to the show know that I'm sort of lukewarm on Kyler Murray. I wasn't huge on him coming out of Oklahoma. Obviously, Heisman Trophy winner. We know what this guy could do. Two-sport athlete. All he was a top 10 pick in the Major League Baseball draft by the Oakland Athletics. Okay, so he's not just a two-sport athlete like that can play baseball, like say like a Russell Wilson. Like Russell can play baseball. He wasn't a top 10 pick. Like this, Kyrie. Kyler is a brilliant athlete. We know he's got phenomenal arm strength, can move. He's for a guy who's 5'9", he's got a pretty solid frame. Right, somewhat similar to Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson's a little bit stronger. Certainly, obviously, Russell's about 2 inches taller than Kyler, inch and a half. But point of it all is, after 3 years, I've said this about Kyler. Dude is ridiculously talented and is no question a franchise quarterback. So, in that sense, listen, the Cardinals didn't have a choice. Okay, the Cardinals, in between the sort of quick rise and quicker fall of Carson Palmer in the twilight of his career, were in quarterback purgatory. In between the bad years of after the MVP caliber season of Carson Palmer up until Kyler Murray in 2019, it was bad. I mean, Cardinal fans, I don't have to remind you about the 1 year of Josh Rosen. It was some rough days in Arizona. But draft Kyler Murray number 1 overall in 2019. He has a solid rookie season. I believe they won 5 games that year. I think they went 5-10-1. Then in 2020, won 8 games. Kyler made the Pro Bowl. 2021, he made another Pro Bowl, and they made the playoffs. Now, of course, we know Arizona got off to that red-hot 10-2 start. We're thinking they might be the favorites to come out the NFC and go to the Super Bowl. Kyler Murray's in the top 3-4 for MVP, and then it just completely, nosedives from there. DeAndre Hopkins gets hurt. Kyler's playing beat up, and they only win 1 game. After starting 10-2, they only won a single game the rest of the season. And then they got humiliated in the wild card loss against the Los Angeles Rams. And so when it comes down to it, my guy Across the Pond Sports, James Scott, shout out to the people at Across the Pond. James Scott says, I love Kyler, but he's overpaid. The thing about the overpaid argument, the thing I've always said is this. First of all, we got to talk about the guy getting paid. Okay. Has he established himself as a franchise quarterback? I think Kyler has. I don't think there's really a question. There's many people who argue he's a top 10 quarterback. I don't. Can he be? No question. No question. But where the market's going, you look where Lamar Jackson may join Aaron Rodgers in that average annual salary department of the number starting with a 5. We're talking, not just, 5 million, but we're talking, 8 figures, number starting with a 5 for Lamar Jackson. So for the Cardinals, it's you better pay Kyler now or you're going to really regret it later, because then the price is just going to keep going up, up, up. Ask the Dallas Cowboys. Could have gotten Dak for 30, 35 million, but because they procrastinated and Jerry didn't believe in Dak, he had to pay him 40. That's on Jerry. Jerry could have paid Dak when he had the opportunity to give him, in between 30, 35, but he ended up paying him 40. That's on Jerry. Cardinals, you don't want to make that same mistake. Because again, when that new TV money comes in 2 or 3 years from now, quarterbacks going to be making $60 million a year. There's no question about it. Like the price for a star franchise quarterback is just going to continue to go up. And you're talking about a guy in Kyler Murray. And this is what I've always admired Josh Allen for this, Dak Prescott for the same reason, and I think Kyler Murray's in the same department. You've seen the improvement year to year. His passer rating went from 94 to 97 to 100. You're seeing those gradual improvements. The past few years, of his first 2 years in the league, he threw 12 picks. This year, 10. Now he missed a few games, so maybe that number skewed a little bit. But he's a guy who can push the ball down the field, who obviously we know about his athleticism. He's not as fast as Lamar Jackson, but man, he can get out of that pocket fast and be a problem with his legs. The questions I've always had about Kyler Murray are intangibles. When we talk about the young quarterbacks in the NFL, I'm not even talking about just the veteran. I'm not talking about the veterans. Take Brady, Wilson, take those guys out. Some of the younger guys coming in the NFL, I mean, you want to talk about just phenomenal leadership intangibles that they've shown. Guys like Burrow, guys like Herbert, even to a certain degree, Patriots locker room seems to have bought into Mac Jones. I haven't by any stretch of the imagination. Patriots have. Meanwhile, in Arizona, you got a guy who's deleting Instagram posts that have anything to do with the Arizona Cardinals. You have reports out of Arizona saying that it's kind of a lot. He's kind of a lot to deal with. And I pointed out in this show, and this is the case all season long, but especially in the playoff loss to the Rams, Kyler Murray showed about as bad body language as I've seen since Jay Cutler. I mean, just slumping his shoulders and, giving really, dirty looks to receivers and, not talking to anybody, kind of isolating himself on the bench. Just in some ways, I'm not going to use the Q word for Kyler Murray, but there was a certain suspicion, like, is he kind of just out? Is his mindset, is he out of this game after a couple bad drives and the Rams go up whatever it was 14-0 in the first two drives? So that's one thing you do have to worry about with Kyler Murray. Like, I've criticized Aaron Rodgers' intangibles profusely on this show. I don't think they're as bad as Kyler's. That's the only thing I worry about. By the way, health. That's something else. Kyler has ended the last 2 seasons injured. I think it's no coincidence that a guy who moves around as much as he does and as small as he is dealing with those types of lower body injuries. So the question for the Cardinals is, can they improve this year like they have the past 3? Right? Because, if you're looking glass half full, if you're a Cardinals fan, you're saying, hey, we went from 5 wins to 8 wins to 11 wins. You'll take that. But at the same time, you're also saying, yeah, but it's kind of been a trend, especially in the last 2 seasons, 2020, 2021. We get off to a red hot start and then just absolutely nosedive in late November on from there, from Thanksgiving on. Now, the question now, and I don't think we'll get this question answered this year, possibly next year, what we'll see, is that a Cliff Kingsbury thing? Is it a Kyler Murray thing? Is it both? I would argue it's a Cliff Kingsbury thing because he did it at Texas Tech. Look at his record in the first 5 games or so in the games he coached at Texas Tech. Keep in mind, at one point, he had Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback. He's pretty good if you haven't heard. And then look at the last half of the season. And what that shows me is teams get film on you and you get somewhat predictable. So that's something you do have to worry about if you're the Arizona Cardinals moving forward. But in terms of should the Cardinals have paid Kyler? Absolutely. You have to pay Kyler. Listen, quarterbacks are so hard to find. Wide receivers, I've said in the show for a while, wide receivers are probably the easiest position to find in the NFL. They are, for whatever reasons, obviously because there's more of that position. These 7-on-7 camps, these kids are becoming better route runners, are becoming more durable, faster than, look, Tyreek Hill is, ridiculous. Even Hollywood Brown, Kyler's new receiver in Arizona, can fly, good hands. You got these big, tall receivers. Look at Kyle Pitts. He's a tight end, just a freak athlete. Could play wide receiver if he wanted to. Wide receivers easy to find. You can even find offensive linemen fairly well if you get a good scouting department. Defensive linemen, the occasional corner, safety, quarterbacks. Ask the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears been looking for their franchise quarterback for the whole Super Bowl era. The whole Super Bowl era. They've been the Jets ever since Joe Namath. They've been trying to find their franchise quarterback. It's hard. Think about a team like the Dallas Cowboys, for example. They drafted Troy Aikman number 1 overall in 1989. Okay, Troy plays 12 years. They win 3 Super Bowls. And then in between Troy and the next star Cowboys quarterback, Tony Romo, man, you got Quincy Carter in there. It's some rough sailing for Dallas, but they kind of lucked into Romo. He was undrafted. And they kind of lucked into Dak in 2016. He was a 4th round pick. Find a quarterback. Some of it's just flat out luck. Now, the Cardinals, they drafted their guy number 1 overall. We expected him to be great. Whole different story than, say, in Dallas. But they are hard to find. Great quarterbacks do not grow on trees. They don't. So when you find your guy, you take care of him. That's why the Baltimore Ravens, I don't know what the heck y'all doing with Lamar Jackson, man. Give that man his money. Because A, the price is going to go up, and B, Lamar doesn't have an agent right now, so that means negotiations possibly could get a little ugly. Just go and take care of him now. I mean, this guy's won 75% of his games. But anyways, I think the Cardinals absolutely made the right decision paying Kyler. I mean, what else are they going to do? What else are they going to do? You got to give that man his money. But, listen, for Arizona, the question is going to be for them, I think I don't want to say we're going to know where they're going throughout the course of the season through the first 6 games, but the first 6 games are crucial. No DeAndre Hopkins. He's suspended. Now, they did go out and get Hollywood Brown. Big plus, big upgrade. Loved Hollywood Brown at Oklahoma. Gets to team up with his college quarterback, Kyler Murray. Keep in mind, these receivers that team up with their college quarterbacks have been pretty successful. Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow is at the top of that list. I mean, all they did was lead the Bengals to the Super Bowl. Even Tua, who I'm not a huge fan of at all as a franchise quarterback, team him up with his old college teammate, Jaylen Waddle. Waddle had over 1,000 yards. So can Hollywood Brown, at least for 6 games, emerge as a true number 1 receiver? I think he's got the potential to. He's got the quarterback that's going to get him the ball. Can they execute? That's the thing. Bring Zach Ertz back. So look, I mean, and you obviously have J.J. Watt coming back on defense. How healthy can he stay? That's always been the big question for him in the back half of his career. Can he give you 10, 11 games? If he can, you'll take that any day of the week. You'll take that and you'll run with it, and you'll hope that he can possibly be healthy for a playoff run. But is Arizona one of the 7 best teams in the NFC? I think so. It's all about health, particularly for their quarterback, and it's all about staying consistent down the stretch. You don't have to go 10-2 to start the season. You don't have to. If you go 8-4, depending on how their schedule lines up, you want to be able to get off to a good start and kind of maintain that momentum going into the postseason. That's the thing. They came in last year with no momentum. They came in just flat as a tire. And it showed against the Rams. They lost by whatever it was, 23 points. I think it was like 34-11 was the final score. It was rough. It was a hard watch. All right. Before we get to our next subject, I did want to acknowledge this because I thought it necessary. So we got unfortunate news yesterday from within the NFL, from the Houston Texans, more specifically, that wide receiver John Mechie, formerly of the University of Alabama, really talented receiver, and drafted by the Houston Texans. I'll go ahead and put up John Mechie's statement. He said, quote, "Recently I was diagnosed with APL, which is acute, I'm not going to even try to pronounce the second word, leukemia. I think it's promyelectic. I'm not sure. Anyways, he was diagnosed with APL, which is the most curable form of leukemia. I am currently receiving great medical care and in good spirits, and I expect to make a recovery at some point later in time. As a result of this diagnosis, I will likely not be playing football this season. My main focus will be on my health and recovery. Thank you in advance for your support and well wishes. I cannot wait to come back stronger than ever. God bless." And his former college coach, the great Nick Saban, released a statement today from the University of Alabama. He said, quote, "John has overcome every challenge placed in front of him in his life with toughness and determination, and we are behind him every step of the way in his fight against leukemia. It's a blessing that he is in a city known for great medical care and with an organization in the Houston Texans who will be with him throughout this journey. Our thoughts and prayers will remain with him throughout this battle," end quote. So just wanted to express my thoughts and prayers to John Mechie. Listen, I don't know much about leukemia. I do know that cancer in general sucks. We'd all agree with that. The great Dick Vitale, shout out to him. Matter of fact, tip of the cap to him. Spoke last week at the ESPYs. He won the Jimmy V Award. Well deserved, by the way. And, he gave this, really powerful speech about, the effects of cancer on kids and just people of all different backgrounds. I mean, and there was a point in the speech too, towards the end, where he said, everybody in this room, it was at the ESPYs, he said, stand up if you or someone has been affected by cancer. And basically everybody stood up. So we all know somebody who's been affected, by this horrible disease. So, I just wanted to express my deepest, compassion and thoughts and prayers for John Mechie, praying for a speedy recovery. Again, the good news about this is it's the most, according to John, it is the most treatable form of leukemia. So hopefully he'll be able to beat this. Again, he'll have, I'm sure, a great support system around him, teammates, family, loved ones. And, hopefully sooner rather than later, he'll be back out in that football field playing the game he loves. So, prayers to John Mechie, because listen, man, cancer sucks. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It sucks. So, big shout out to John Mechie. I wanted to do that before we move on. All right, so back to the NBA now. We're basically just going to be doing a flip-flop. So we go from NBA to NFL, back to NBA. My last two topics will be in the NFL. So, Philadelphia 76ers, James Harden signed a 2-year extension, took a $15 million pay cut to stay with the team. I believe he has a player option for next season, which would be the 23 through 24 season. And so he'll stay in Philadelphia. This doesn't come as a huge surprise to anybody. We all assumed, given the reports we'd heard, that he was going to stay a member of the 76ers. Obviously, we know his close relationship with Daryl Morey, going back to their days with the Houston Rockets. And Joel Embiid and James Harden seem to have a good relationship, certainly better than that of Embiid and Ben Simmons, who, at sometimes didn't even want to speak to each other. So that's a plus, right? The two stars of a team like each other. I'm seeing a change in James Harden over the last month that I'm really, I don't want to necessarily say admiring, but I'm definitely, respecting coming from him, because James Harden's a guy who I have always said in the show, obviously we know, great talent, future first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the great scorers that we've seen. But I think in terms of taking care of his body and adjustments, we talk about adjustments with coaches, but we don't talk enough about that with players. I've always been critical of Russell Westbrook. Much higher criticism for Westbrook than James in this regard, that Russell Westbrook plays in the postseason the same way he does in the regular season. Well, you can't do that. The pace is totally different. The game is slowed way down. And James Harden in the postseason, I won't go through his record because it's bad, has consistently not delivered. And in some cases, in 2 instances, in 2017 against the Spurs, and I thought this past postseason against Miami, in the closeout Game 6, both games at home, not only disappeared, but it felt like almost quit in a way. Body language is bad. He's not shooting the basketball. He's turning it over. Is not good. But I'll give James Harden this. I'll listen, we keep it 100 on carving it up. Always keep it 100. James Harden, I've seen him in the gym more often now in Philadelphia than I did at the end in Houston, in Brooklyn, his brief tenure there. So he looks slimmer, looks more lean, looks like he's taking care of his body more. I'm sure a lot of that has to do with his diet. Training. Philadelphia 76ers coaches have really been, working with him on that. He's been interacting more with teammates. And now he just took a pay cut so that Philadelphia can possibly put more pieces around him, whether it be this offseason or possibly, say, in the buyout market, like I mentioned earlier with the Boston Celtics, or possibly at the trade deadline. So what James Harden is showing you, and I always talk about this, I quote the great point guard, and I thought excellent head coach, Mark Jackson, and great broadcaster, by the way, don't talk about it, be about it. Don't talk to me about how bad you want to win or how bad you want to succeed. Show me. I got to see it. We know the old cliche, actions speak louder than words. Well, James Harden is showing us, I think, recently, certainly this offseason, he wants to win. He's willing to put everything he has, from his training to his diet, to even sacrifice a little bit of bread so that there'll be some crumbs left for other guys to come into Philadelphia and make a positive impact. Keep in mind, Tyrese Maxey, he's going to want his money next offseason, right? And he's improved tremendously the last few years. Tyrese Maxey is going to be a big piece of this Philadelphia team if they want to contend. Obviously, James Harden, we know the athleticism has waned. We know he didn't really take care of his hamstring this past offseason. And so at that stage around May, when they lost the playoffs to Miami, I'm like, I don't know how much this guy really cares about winning. I've always kind of had those questions. I don't see the same dedication that guys, like I always talk about, committing to the offseason. Steph, Giannis, LeBron, Jimmy Butler. Now Luka seems to be, putting the work in the offseason. He looks, much better, this summer than he did last summer. I mean, he came in the last year during camp completely out of shape. So the fact that James Harden is taking care of his body and is trying to help his team win, I can respect that. Do I think he is going to improve drastically as a player? No, I don't. Improve, sure. Again, he's going to be in better shape. I would certainly think better spirits. So we know the whole thing in Brooklyn, the first sort of domino that fell and became, a big disappointment for the Brooklyn Nets and their fan base is when Kyrie Irving decided not to get vaccinated. So thus, he couldn't play home games. And it was reported that James Harden was really frustrated about that. And he even voiced those frustrations to the media at times. Kevin Durant at times voiced his frustrations to the media in that regard. He said he hadn't talked to Kyrie. So I think being able to come into the season, clear of that distraction, being able to say, okay, I'm recommitting to my body, recommitting to this basketball team. I want to win a championship. Because who's to say, too? James Harden is getting up there in age. I think it's safe to say he's past his prime. But James Harden, I think, is looking at it and saying, who's to say I couldn't be, when it's all said and done, maybe one of the 3 greatest shooting guards to ever play the game. We know the top 2 are solidified, Michael and Kobe. Nobody argues that. But then we get into a debate between Jerry West and Dwayne Wade. We talk about, guys like Allen Iverson, who I think was more of a 2 guard than a true point. So James is like, hey, I've got an MVP. I finished second in the MVP race, numerous times. Who's to say? Who's to say I can't, with a championship, I can't elevate myself even further in that discussion? Because we all know, you win a title, people look at you completely different. Even if you get to a championship round, whatever sport it is, and you lose, and you still come away ringless or without the trophy, that stigma is still kind of going to be there. I mean, you telling me that Matt Stafford is getting the love and admiration, or even close to that, had he lost the Super Bowl to the Cincinnati Bengals, had the Rams lost that game? No. Because then the notion would have been, well, yeah, the Rams got to the Super Bowl, but they played an inferior opponent at home, and Matt Stafford still couldn't deliver. That would be the narrative. They called him Stat Padford, but wins a ring, and he's easily, nobody would argue this, a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. I mean, legacies change, man, when you get that bling, when you get that jewelry. Changes big time. That's why Kevin Durant went to Golden State. Okay, he knew. He didn't want to go down as the greatest player ever to never win a ring. I've always said, when you win that championship, there's very rare instances where it's not the case. But once you get that ring, it removes the yeah, but from your career. Now, whether you care about it or not, let's be real, most athletes do. I don't, who wouldn't? That stuff matters. So the fact that James Harden is committing to the offseason, I could respect that. I could respect that big time. And look, it's Philadelphia's going to have their work cut out for them. Boston, even if they don't get KD, they did just go to the NBA Finals. So they're going to be back. Milwaukee is not just going to be coming back healthy, but kind of ticked off because they feel like, hey, if Middleton doesn't get hurt, we definitely go to the finals. And we probably, in their minds, they would have beaten Golden State. Yeah, Miami coming back next year. They're a Jimmy Butler made 3 from getting to the finals themselves. So this Eastern Conference, man, it's no joke. So bottom line is, for Philadelphia, I can respect the fact that James Harden has seemed to put more into the offseason and into the team as a whole than I've seen him ever put in Houston and in Brooklyn. Again, do I think James is going to be an MVP candidate next season? No, I don't. I think those years have passed him. But do I think we're going to see improvement from last season? Absolutely. He's going to be more healthy, more ready to go, and I think in a better mental state, better emotional state with the game and with the current team he's with. So I think Philadelphia, we'll see what they do. I'll tell you this, the roster as currently constructed will look different in February. They're going to make some deals next season to try and put themselves in a position to compete for a championship. Man, I mean, this NBA offseason and our predictions for what's going to happen next season all hinges on Kevin Durant, because most of the title contending teams look about the same. Some, declined a little bit. Some others, like say Milwaukee and Boston, again, the two teams I mentioned, they got better in the offseason because Boston added Malcolm Brogdon and Danilo Gallinari. Milwaukee, on the other hand, added Joe Ingles, great shooter. So, those additions, man, they go a long way. I mean, my Golden State Warriors, Golden State is going to be better next year because of the fact that Kuminga is going to continue to get better. Moses Moody showed, improved drastically from the beginning of the season till, he had a really good stint in the Western Conference Finals. Andrew Wiggins is more comfortable now. Clay is absolutely going to be better next year because he has a full offseason, not to rehab one of his legs, but to play basketball, to get better, to work on his body. So we're going to see a lot more of the typical, the old Clay, if you will. You add to the fact that, who am I missing? James Wiseman will be back, bringing size to obviously in the pick and roll, and defensively, he's an excellent shot blocker. He's really long, is a decent perimeter defender, and certainly will get better with reps. So we just need to get Wiseman on the court. That's the only thing. DiVincenzo, JaMychal Green. I like where my Warriors are at. No question. Moving on to back to the NFL. My guy, wearing his hat like I normally do, Dak Prescott, better known as Dak. And Madden NFL 23, the popular video game. By the way, the cover of Madden this year is the late great John Madden. Obviously, he passed away this past December, so the video game of which he was the originator of, the guy who created it, or at least sort of put into motion what Madden looks like today. It's a long story, but they back in the late 80s, they approached him. They said, hey, we want a video game, and we want it to be a 7-on-7 game. And John Madden's like, I don't want 7-on-7. I want actual football. I want 11-on-11. I want to teach the younger generation about the game of football, or just anybody who wants to play this video game, and maybe it sparks their interest in football. So it's a great tribute to John Madden, put him on the cover. But they've been coming out with their rankings lately. And some I think have been fairly accurate. Some have been off. I mean, I thought Jamar Chase's rating was quite low in my view. But hey, they changed throughout the course of the season. But they came out with their highly anticipated quarterback rankings, and Outrage City, lose your minds, ladies and gentlemen, because the top 5, nobody's gonna go crazy about the top 5. It goes Brady, Rodgers, Mahomes, Allen, Burrow. And nobody's gonna complain about that. But then we get to 6, and oh my God. Dak Prescott's number 6? You have him above Herbert and Wilson and Lamar and Stafford? Oh my goodness. And people were losing their minds on Twitter, predictably, because I don't know what it is. People seem to have a particular dislike about one Dak Prescott. So, preface the argument I'm about to make for why it's a good ranking for him with this. By the way, Dak is an 89 overall. Again, I'll put the rankings back up. Brady is a 97, Rodgers 96, Mahomes 95, Allen 92, Burrow a 90, and Dak is in 6th at an 89, which is one rating above Justin Herbert. I came out with a couple weeks ago. I did my top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. Here it is, right here, and I had Dak at 9th. I had Brady, Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Rodgers. Madden had them those guys in a different order than I did, but my 5 and Madden's 5 are exactly the same. I had Russell Wilson above Dak simply because I think he's just better than Dak. I love Russell Wilson. I put Stafford above Dak. Listen, man, he led his team to the Super Bowl. What can I say? Derek Carr above Dak for the simple fact that, look, both guys had to sort of drag their franchise into the playoffs. Difference is Derek Carr dealt with far more chaos than Dak did, and Dak dealt with his share of chaos. It's Dallas, for crying out loud. But Vegas last year was just, it was nothing but chaos from the start of the season to the bitter end. And Derek Carr did it in a tougher division, in a tougher conference. That's why I put him a spot above Dak. And I put Dak above Herbert because, simply put, much as I love Justin Herbert, and I was high on him coming out of the 2020 draft, man, I haven't made the playoffs yet. Can we make the playoffs where we start having a discussion? But people going crazy. Why is Dak rated a 90 overall? Well, I'll tell you why. Okay. So how they do it, for those of you that don't know, how they do these Madden ratings is they rank from 0 to 99, your strengths and your weaknesses. So, like, for example, for a quarterback, throw on the run, or throwing accuracy under pressure, arm strength, your accuracy on deep balls, short passes, and medium passes. Like they take all those things into consideration. Mobility, breaking sacks. Like they take all these different things. That's what makes it such a great game, and so accurate to what the NFL really looks like in terms of the talent on the field. So here's the thing about Dak Prescott and his Madden rating that I think people need to kind of step back and look at. So Dak was ranked as the third best quarterback on Madden on deep ball accuracy. They gave him a 92 overall. Again, max you can get is a 99. They gave Dak a high rating at a 92. Deep ball accuracy, that was third behind, I think it was Rodgers and might have been, was it Burrow was number 2? I forgot who number 2 was. The Rodgers number 1. I think it was Mahomes was number 2. Oh, how can you put Dak third? Well, possibly because he was the 6th most accurate quarterback in the NFL and throws down the field. That's an idea. I mean, for somebody who I've heard for a long time doesn't have a good arm, isn't accurate just in general. People say it's not accurate, which his 69% completion percentage would tell you otherwise. But on deep balls, Dak, only 5 guys in the whole NFL are more accurate than Dak. So having him third, it's a touch high. It's a touch high, but it's not like just crazy inaccurate. Certainly given what folks on Twitter will tell you. I digress. They also ranked Dak as the 6th best intermediate passer in the NFL. So passes, I'm going to guess in between, like, say, 10 to 19 yards, something like that. Now, I wasn't able to find any numbers on that, on his accuracy on those throws. But I can tell you that he was the 4th most accurate quarterback in the NFL last season. Again, completion percentage, 68.8. We'll round that up to 69. He's accurate. Can hit the short throws, hit the throws over the middle, on the sideline. I mean, go Google, not just from last season, but from his career. Some throws down the field he's made to Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. He made a ridiculous throw to, I believe it was Cedric Wilson last year against the Giants, just right over the shoulder. I mean, again, I always say it's like Dak could have taken the ball, run down the field, and handed it to Cedric Wilson. It could not have been a better throw. Okay, so Dak is accurate on balls down the field. The numbers back it up, and Madden sees that. And in general, he's the 4th most accurate quarterback in football. They also ranked Dak, and I actually thought and also about Dak Prescott too. He's the 3rd most accurate quarterback in the red zone. I think he was behind Tua, which that surprised me a little bit. I think Burrow was number 2. So in the red zone, when Dak gets in the red zone, he don't throw picks, doesn't turn the ball over. Either he scores or he puts you in position to kick a field goal. Right? He's accurate down in the red zone. Down in, some people call it the green zone because it's, that's where you got to cash in. You got to get touchdowns once you get inside the 20-yard line. Dak's the 3rd most accurate quarterback in that area of the field. They also ranked Dak, Madden did, as the 3rd best quarterback under pressure. Now, this one I actually think underrated Dak. To me, if I was one of the Madden people, if I had to say on this, I'd put Dak at the top of the list because he led the NFL in touchdown passes under pressure. Which, by the way, touchdown passes under pressure, and he led the NFL in touchdown passes against the blitz. He had 9 touchdown passes under pressure last season, which led the NFL, and 22 touchdown passes against the blitz. That also led the NFL by a wide margin. Joe Burrow was in 2nd. Dak and Burrow would know a thing or two about being pressured because their offensive lines are below average. Burrow's is much worse, so I'll give him that. But the bottom line of it all is I've never, really understood the argument when it comes to Dak not being elite, not being a top 10 quarterback. When the numbers back it up, the wins back it up, when other guys that people place above Dak have not had the playoff success that he has or even the regular season success, guys like Herbert and Carr. I mean, I put Carr over Dak, but just ever so slightly. Dak can easily pass him next season. Keep in mind, Vegas's roster improved this year. Dallas's did not. Matter of fact, Dallas has probably got worse. So if Dak goes on to have a better season than Carr, I'm absolutely putting him above Carr. Derek Carr's got Devontae Adams. Dak Prescott's best receiver is an above-average CeeDee Lamb. Derek Carr's got the best receiver in football. So, that's always been the thing that has confused me. People put Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray? You crazy? Numbers, not even close to Dak. Not even in the same ballpark. Playoff success, Dak's won a playoff game, and in the other 3 losses, in 2 of the losses, he's played excellent. In the loss last year to San Francisco, He played below average. He didn't play as well as he could have to win that game, although I've said in the show, I think he played well enough to win the game. He made a beautiful 4th down 11 throw to Cedric Wilson that Cedric Wilson should have caught. It's neither here nor there. But for him to be ranked 6th overall, it's not outrageous. I got him 9th. I actually had Dak. Let's put the list from last year. I actually had Dak 6th last year. I had him behind Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers, Wilson, and Josh Allen. I had Dak 6th. So actually, he fell a few spots on my list, which might surprise some people. But I just my thing has always been with Dak and guys like Lamar Jackson, for example, is check the numbers, obviously, but numbers don't tell the whole story. Matthew Stafford put up ridiculous numbers in Detroit, didn't amount to jack squat, right? Lions are a poorly run franchise. The Rams are not. We know that. But winning games, beating playoff level teams, accuracy, cashing in the red zone, not turn the ball over, leadership. I'm not real sure. If you're asking Dak to be Patrick Mahomes, he can't. If you're asking to be Brady, Rodgers, he can't. Allen, no. Burrow, he can't do that. Even Wilson, I don't think he could get to that peak. Maybe possibly Wilson, but it's a toss-up. But in terms of everything that you want in a franchise quarterback, Dak's got. And by the way, can I put up the list one more time when Madden puts up their top 10 quarterbacks in the league? The majority of these quarterbacks on this list have had an elite coach. Brady has had an elite coach, had one for 20 years. Rodgers, I don't think Rodgers has ever had an elite coach. We're seeing that now with Mike McCarthy in Dallas, and we definitely saw it, or we've seen it with Matt LaFleur. I do not consider him elite. Patrick Mahomes, the guy gets drafted in the NFL and gets freaking Andy Reid. I mean, come on now. Like, that's not fair. Like, when you got guys like Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence getting, an inexperienced Robert Saleh and an inexperienced Urban Meyer with 2 garbage rosters and 2 poorly run franchises, and then Patrick Mahomes gets drafted and gets Andy Reid. Like, some things just aren't fair. But Mahomes is great. But let's be real, having Andy Reid hasn't hurt things. Josh Allen, I believe he has an elite coach. I've always been high on Sean McDermott. Keep in mind, before Josh Allen got drafted, Sean McDermott, all he did was lead the Buffalo Bills in 2017. Led the Buffalo Bills to their first playoff appearance in, 18 years? It was like they hadn't been in the playoffs since the Music City Miracle loss. He got into the playoffs with Tyrod Taylor and it's sometimes Nathan Peterman as his quarterback. That's how good Sean McDermott is. Joe Burrow at 5. I've come around a little bit on Zach Taylor. Still don't view him as an elite coach, but better than what Dak's ever had with Jason Garrett and with Mike McCarthy. Okay, Justin Herbert, you got Anthony Lynn. I kind of like Anthony Lynn. Brandon Staley, not as high on. He's never had an elite coach. Russell Wilson for a while until Pete Carroll just, decided to stop evolving as a head coach. But for a while there, Russell Wilson did have an elite head coach and got to the Super Bowl twice and came within a yard of winning both of them. Lamar Jackson has an elite coach, John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh's got a Super Bowl ring. He's got the playoff success. It's a well-run franchise in Baltimore. Lamar's had that. And Matthew Stafford, we know Sean McVay is probably one of the 3 or 4 best coaches in the NFL. So the only other guys on this list that have not had an elite coach in this top 10 quarterback list for Madden, outside of Dak, it's Rodgers, who's ridiculously gifted. Dak's not that. Burrow, even though I will say though Zach Taylor is a better coach than both Jason Garrett or Mike McCarthy, and Justin Herbert. I'm not saying the coach's success or the coach's schemes are, the quarterbacks are completely dependent on that to win. I mean, Jared Goff was in LA, was successful, not as successful as Stafford. Stafford's just flat out better than Jared Goff. We saw that last year. But I do think when we talk about the Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, certainly the elite quarterbacks who have won a Super Bowl, they've all had elite head coaches. Dak hasn't. Not only has Dak never had an elite coach, he's been with a poorly run franchise for his entire 6th year, now going up to year 7 to this point. Well, I mean, when you have an owner who doesn't shut up during the offseason and especially during the season, Jerry is like a typical fan. Not a Cowboy fan, just a fan. When the team's playing well, he is cloud 9. And when the team's not, I paid too much money for them to be looking like this on this football field. He's curmudgeon-y and grumpy. Not saying you should be mad at your team if they're not playing well. I get that. But you don't have to verbalize every single thing that's on your mind, Jerry Jones. You've got a team that is drafted well. They're not a bad drafting team. I mean, all they did was draft Micah Parsons last year. He's phenomenal. They drafted 3, future first ballot offensive linemen. But one of them has retired, Travis Frederick. One is way past his prime. Tyron Smith has almost become a liability at left tackle. And one, Zach Martin, still a great player, but I think is out of his prime. The injuries have started to mount to this point. All while Dak has had to deal with a running back who just, I don't know what happened to Zeke after 2018, just nosedive in terms of his production. He's never had a true number one wide receiver. His best tight end, I don't know, either an old Jason Witten or Dalton Schultz. I mean, all of a sudden we're talking about, Cowboys can't win without Dalton Schultz. You think Dak had something to do with that? And a defense that's had one elite player since he's been there. Like Trayvon Diggs, don't love him. Like Micah Parsons is just, he's otherworldly. He's just a freak athlete. He's a phenomenal phenomenal football player. That's what Dak's had to deal with. So do I have a problem with Madden ranking him at 6? Of course I don't. I got him 9. But the argument that they put in place, the ratings that they put in place for him to be the 6th best quarterback, everything I just read backs that up. So I'm just saying. Don't always get mad at everything when it comes to any praise of Rain Dakota Prescott. It's not he's elite. Like can we finally put that to bed? Every quarterback metric you look at: wins, yards, completion percentage, passer rating, QBR, touchdowns. Dak's top 5 in just about every category. I don't know what else you need, but what do I know? All right, last topic of the day. Let's talk about a retired quarterback. But before I do that, a couple things real quick. According to Adam Schefter, Danny Amendola, 2-time Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots, has decided to retire from the NFL. He said, quote, "It was better than I could have ever imagined," he said about his career. So, good for Danny, good for him and his family. I know Danny Amendola is in the 80 for Brady movie at Tom Brady's in. I think Gronk and Julian Edelman are also in that movie. It's got Rita Moreno, Jane Fonda, really good cast. It's a comedy about, some women going to see Tom Brady's Super Bowl 51 win over the Atlanta Falcons. I'm not real sure of the plot. When I think it's scheduled to come out next year, so I'm excited to see that. Amendola's in that movie, but he just retired. So shout out to Amendola. Yeah, Danny Amendola retired. Shout out to him. Best wishes in retirement. And also, this is painful. Okay, so I'm going to take the Dak Prescott hat off for a second after I've gloated about my quarterback. And I have to put this hat on. For the podcast audience, for those listening, can't see me. I'm wearing a Boston Red Sox hat right now. So over the weekend, first series out of the MLB All-Star break, my Red Sox got swept by the Toronto Blue Jays. And it dropped them to 500, and I believe 3.5 games out of the last wild card spot in the American League. Now, that on the face of it isn't great. Coming to the end of July, Boston isn't playing that well. We get the message. But on Friday night, the first game out of the All-Star break, you've had, outside of the All-Stars, Rafael Devers, JD Martinez, and Xander Bogaerts. Outside of those 3 guys, everybody's had basically a week off. At home, Fenway Park, they played the Toronto Blue Jays. Again, first game of the All-Star break. You got your ace on the mound, Nate Eovaldi. My Boston Red Sox lost to the Toronto Blue Jays by a final score of 28-5. My Red Sox gave up, this don't even look real, 29 hits to Toronto. They gave up, or I should say, let me reframe that. Jaron Duran, the center fielder, gave up an inside the park, not home run, grand slam. Lost it in the air. Listen, I've now been that high on Jaron Duran ever since he's been in Boston. I think he is a phenomenal. He can fly. He can fly. He's one of the fastest players in baseball. I don't want to see Jaron Durant on the baseball diamond unless he's in there as a pinch runner, unless he's got a helmet on and he's standing on a bag. Outside of that, I don't want to see him in center field. He's had too many gaffes out there. Lost a fly ball in center field. Inside the park, grand slam. So a Little League grand slam. Here's how the scoring by inning goes for Toronto. This is a Major League Baseball game, by the way. 2 Major League Baseball teams. 2 pretty good Major League Baseball teams. Both teams trying to get in the postseason. By inning from 1 through 9, Toronto, 1 run, 2 runs, 7 runs, 4 runs, 11 runs, 2 runs, goose egg, 1 run in the 9th. Christian Vasquez, my catcher, seemed to be the only guy that knew there was a baseball game that night. He hit 2 home runs. Thank you, Christian. Outside of that, Nate Eovaldi. Look at Nate Eovaldi's number. My guy, Nasty Nate. I've loved Nathan Eovaldi since he's been in Boston since 2018. Nate Eovaldi, 2 2/3 innings pitched. 8 hits, 9 earned runs. You got to be kidding me. I knew my bullpen was bad. I know at this stage in the game, my Boston Red Sox are certainly not a title contender whatsoever out of the American League. To me, it's the Yankees, the Astros pennant to lose. But 28 runs, 2 shy of the all-time record for 30, which I believe was set in 2007. You got to be kidding me. It's one thing to lose. But at Fenway Park, with your ace on the mound, against a pretty evenly matched ball club, Toronto's got a better pitching staff, Boston's got a better offense. Although I couldn't tell the other night on Boston's end. How on God's green earth? How in the name of the Green Monster do you lose by 23 runs? I don't know if John's in the comments. I don't know if Mike Guido's in the comments. 2 Yankee fans, two good buddies of mine. And anybody who's a Yankees fan in general, anybody who hates the Boston Red Sox, man, feel free to just troll me. I can't even fight. I don't have a leg to stand on. So let me get that off my head. Put my Dak hat back on. It makes me feel more confident. I mean, it's just like, okay, let's change the subject. Let's go back to the NFL because I can't even. I don't want to sit and think about that. It makes me want to like end this show right now. But I won't do that. I got one more topic to do before we get out of here. Ben Roethlisberger, former quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers, no question, will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. You could make an argument between he or Terry Bradshaw is the greatest Steelers quarterback of all time. I think in terms of talent, it's certainly been. But, Bradshaw obviously did bring 4 championships to the great city of Pittsburgh in the 1970s. Really the first dynasty in the Super Bowl era was those 70s Pittsburgh Steelers led by Terry Bradshaw and the Steel Curtain on defense. But Ben Roethlisberger was talking to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette's Ron Cook. Okay, he was talking to this guy, and he was talking about players focusing on themselves more than their team. He said it's something that extends beyond the pro level. Here's Big Ben's quote. This is rich, okay? This is his quote. Quote, I might be standing on a soapbox a little bit, but that's my biggest takeaway from when I started to the end. It turned from a team first to a me type attitude. It was hard. It's hard for these young guys too. Social media, they're treated so well in college. Now this new NIL stuff, which is unbelievable, they're treated so special. They're coddled at a young age because college coaches need them to win too. I know Coach Hopner never coddled me, neither did Bill Cowher. First of all, you want to talk about a get off my lawn type of quote here from Big Ben. But secondly, what makes this even better is the fact that outside in the modern era, in the last 2 decades, I don't think we've ever had, outside of Cutler and Rodgers, a quarterback that was more me first than Big Ben. By the way, do I have a problem with athletes looking out for the best interest? No, I actually think you should, you know? That's why I said Kyler, I'm not a fan of Kyler's, but am I a fan of him getting his money? Of course I am. I want guys to get paid. In the NFL, it could be here today, gone tomorrow. Get your money while you can. But for Big Ben to be saying this is just amazing. This is the same guy who had his issues off the field. Need I remind anybody? Not one, but two accusations of sexual assault by two different women in two different time periods. May I remind you that he was a guy who, especially at the end of his career, especially at the end, which is when you really need to do this, did not take care of his body 1 ounce. As a matter of fact, the great Jay Glazer, reporter for Fox Sports, he was answering questions from fans on Twitter, and this is 3-4 years ago. And somebody, I think it was a Steelers fan, tweeted at Jay Glazer. They said, "Hey, what's Ben Roethlisberger's off-season routine? What does he do to keep his body in shape?" And Jay Glazer said, I'm paraphrasing, but basically, Ben Roethlisberger's offseason consists of one weightlifting session, couple of, Pilates sessions, and eating, footlongs at Subway. So paraphrasing, but that's basically what Jay Glazer said. In other words, Ben Roethlisberger did not take care of his body, especially at the end of his career. Tom Brady has. Rodgers, to a certain degree, has. I think Breeze extended his career a few years because he did. We saw Ben the last 2-3 years. It was bad. Lost all velocity on his arm. Was not as accurate. Could not move. You want to talk about a statue in the pocket. We talk about Brady's a statue. Brady can still move pretty well in the pocket. Roethlisberger, it hurt watching. That playoff loss to Kansas City, we all knew it was coming. Pittsburgh knew it was coming. So playing a great team like Kansas City, Ben was, again, literally a statue back there. We're talking about the last 3 years of his career. His last great year was 2018. I believe he led the league in passing yards. He was great. But the last 3 years was rough. Why? Because all of those years of not taking care of your body, they come back to bite you in the end. And it did for Ben. Also the same Ben Roethlisberger who, year in and year out, basically came one step short of pulling a Brett Favre. Remember Favre every year at the end of his time in Green Bay would retire, then unretire, or he'd suggest the thought of retiring, strongly suggest the thought of retiring, then not do it. That was Ben every year. This could be my last year. I could retire. Had to keep the Steelers on their toes a little bit, because if you're the Steelers, you're like, I don't know what to do. Is he going to retire? Are we going to have to pivot like that to either go get a quarterback in free agency, trade for one, or draft one? There were numerous reports of the late great owner Dan Rooney. Anytime Big Ben would get in trouble off the field, it reportedly made Mr. Rooney furious. Of course. When we talk about, say immature quarterbacks, like a Baker Mayfield, or guys that don't have the intangibles we'd like them to, like a Kyler Murray or an Aaron Rodgers, that was Ben. And while he matured, even to the end of his career, didn't put the time in the offseason. He didn't. So yeah, this is again, this is awesome. I love hearing this from Ben, because it's, I love getting a good dose of hypocrisy occasionally. The one quote I love too. Now this new NIL stuff, which is unbelievable. Oh, God forbid college athletes get paid. I heard Kirby Smart say something about that. Not to the extent that Ben did, but Kirby Smart, great head coach at the University of Georgia, he was talking about, these players can't handle the money. It's like, dang, it's kind of a shot at the players, But that's neither here nor there. Maybe I'll get into Kirby Smart on Thursday if we have time. But just this outrage around NIL, folks, it makes no sense. Even from the great Nick Saban. I love Nick Saban. He's the greatest college football coach ever. But even he was talking about, he's talking about how it, he's getting feisty with Jimbo Fisher. It's like, guys, the second college athletes can make a little something, everybody lose their minds. It's like, geez, come on. And Ben saying this, bro, ain't your money. You ain't paying him. Why you care? But him saying that it's become a me first. It's like, dude, You were the epitome of what you're talking about, which is the very definition of hypocrisy. We're all hypocrites. I'm not going to be self-righteous here. I'm a hypocrite sometimes. Have been on the show, I'm sure. We're all hypocrites. But, man, when it's like so obvious and blind, it's like, dude, come on now. All right. So great to be back. That is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, be sure to check out Carving It Up on Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitter. Also, be sure to check out the Carving It Up podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and Anchor, as well as wherever you listen to your podcasts. The episodes are available about an hour after every show at about 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific time. So be sure to check those out if you weren't able to catch the whole show live. And be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel too. Like, comment, share. It helps the channel grow exponentially. And also, I will tease this. We've got a very, very special guest coming on Friday. Looking forward to having this person on. Almost had them on about a month ago, but, some things happened. Wasn't able to work out, but this person could be coming on Friday. I won't tell you who it is. All I will tell you is it's going to be a blast. It's going to be a blast. First-time guest, and it's going to be fun. I can't wait to have this person on. So definitely be sure to check out Friday's show. But before that, check out Thursday's show at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. My guy, John Rivera, in the comments. He's back. Appreciate you coming in, John. And, before we go, I'll give you some time. Got my Red Sox hat here. John, I went on a Red Sox rant about 10 minutes ago. So if you want to comment, let's go Yankees, brother, have at it. I'm not even going to get mad at you today. You have every right. Yankees are kind of been up and down. They had a good series against Baltimore over the weekend. Haven't been as great in June or July as they were in June. I still like Houston, the American League. But John, if you want to let me have it with the Let's Go Yankees, like just get it out the way. It's I still can't comprehend the fact that my Red Sox lost by 23 runs and gave up 28, which I think is second all time. I still can't. Yep, there it is. Let's go Yankees. Yep, knew it was coming. I asked for it, literally. John asked about Soto, Juan Soto. I don't think. Do you think New York goes out and gets? I think the Yankees' priority. You need to keep the judge in the house because he leaves. Yeah, that's it for title contention for New York. Like he's the heartbeat of the franchise. You got to keep Aaron Judge in that building before you worry about Juan Soto. Could they get him? Sure. I mean, listen, there's no salary cap in baseball, and the Yankees have more money than anybody. They can pay Juan Soto in excess or over, what he declined from the Nationals, $440 million. But priority number one is keep Aaron Judge in the building. But that's just my two thoughts. All right. See you on Thursday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe out there. God bless you all. Peace out. 25. Come on. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.